Picture the pitch-black waters of the Strait of Hormuz at exactly 3:15 in the morning. Take a slow breath and watch as that quiet stretch of ocean suddenly turns into a 49-mile wide highway of pure fire. 215 deadly streaks of light tear across the horizon from the Iranian coast. The leaders in Tehran have just pulled the trigger that historians will study as the ultimate act of national self-destruction. They have hurled a massive wave of ballistic rockets and suicide drones straight at the USS Gerald R Ford carrier strike group, the floating symbol of the American strength. The generals hidden in their underground bunkers are practically cheering. They are absolutely convinced they just pulled off a brilliant modern war of their health. They are fantasizing about their $15 billion supercarrier and its deck of F-35C stealth jets burning down to nothing but twisted scrap metal. They honestly believe they threw so much at the wall that the American defense grid would just snap. But they are completely blind to a terrifying reality. The very second their first missile left the launch pad, an invisible clock started ticking on the complete erasure of their entire military machine. America does not see victory, and America certainly does not negotiate. While those incoming war heads are still pushing up through the atmosphere, the watchful eye of the United States Space Force has already locked right into it. It takes exactly 2 seconds. Just 2 heartbeats for the ultimate death warning to be sounded. What happens next is not a battle. It is a clinical technological slaughter, a show of force so cold and absolute that it will freeze the blood of anyone who ever dreams of triumph. It takes exactly 33 minutes to turn the clock to 1,850 precision weapons against 215 lonely enemy targets. The result is total and permanent wipeout. Welcome to Operation Hormuz Hellfire, the moment the world learns what it actually takes to wake up an American civil. This is exactly how an entire weapons empire gets erased from the map in under an hour. Let us back up a little and look at this. Right here, sits the Strait of Hormuz. It is not just water. It is the main artery of the global economy, pumping 20% of the oil the world uses every single day. And on this particular night, the regime decides to choke that artery in the most reckless military stunt of the modern era. They gave it a flashy name like Operation Persian Slaying, but all they really wrote was their own obituaries in red ink. Deep inside the Zagros Mountains and along the shores of Bandar, the heavy launch doors open. 45 Shahab 3 medium-range ballistic missiles, 60 Bakri 120 cruise missiles, and a buzzing storm of 110 Shahid kamikaze drones pour out into the night. 215 pieces of flying metal. They figured if they threw everything they had all at once, the American Aegis combat system would get overwhelmed and doomed. The commanders of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps are standing in their damp command center, grinning like the hope of their country. They are gazing at the torpedo skyrocketing to 300 miles per hour. They just forgot one tiny detail. They were trying to Their fatal mistake was not just attacking, it was aiming at the single most heavily guarded part of America. The Gerald R Ford is not just a ship. It is an oceanic fortress surrounded by 4 Arleigh Burke baseline twin destroyers, 2 upgraded Ticonderoga-class cruisers, and a web of tactical satellites. The attackers bet their regime on the hope that rusty numbers could beat the future. Put yourself in the shoes of a launch officer on the ground. You just hit the red button, thinking you broke the back of the American empire. You watch the screens as tons of explosives streak upward, and your chest swells with pride. But your outdated equipment cannot show you what is actually happening. The millisecond your weapon lit its engines, a satellite network hovering 35,000 kilometers in space saw the heat. The space-based infrared system never sleeps, and it does not need permission to watch you. As soon as fire touched the air at the Kermanshah base, the hypersensitive sensors grabbed the signal. In 2 flat seconds, tiny dots on screens in Colorado and Maryland are confirmed as a massive incoming strike. The attackers think they are sneaking around in the dark, but they are standing naked under the brightest spotlight in the universe. automated computers take a single breath to map out every flight path, speed, and impact zone. The screens aboard the carrier group flash with flawless precision. Target is the Strait of Hormuz, count is 215, impact is imminent. Back on land they are throwing a party, but inside the American Combat Center, it is terrifyingly quiet. There is no yelling and no panic. Just the clack of keyboards and the calm voices of the system operators. To them, this is not a desperate fight for survival. It is just a data processing problem, and the final answer is always the humiliating failure of the enemy. At 3 in the morning, the dark sky over the water shatters into hundreds of blinding white streaks. This is not a desperate defense. It is the Aegis Baseline 10 system waking up. It is a digital god of war that can juggle thousands of interceptors at once with a margin of error the size of your fingernail. Those 45 medium-range missiles are dropping from space at insane speeds, thinking gravity will make them unstoppable. They are completely wrong. The SM-3 interceptors shoot out of their vertical launch tubes. They do not even pack explosives. They just smash into the incoming weapons at thousands of miles an hour with pure kinetic energy, turning them into expensive dust way up in the stratosphere. Lower down, the destroyers go to work. They're in Spy 6 radars, which are 30 times stronger than previous generations, lock onto the 60 cruise missiles like shooting fish in a barrel. SM-6 interceptors twist through the air like high-tech snakes, hunting down and crushing every single one. The explosions light up the sea. And then there are the 110 drones they love to brag about. As soon as they hit the 20-mile buffer zone, they run into a solid wall of molten metal. The phalanx close-in weapon systems and rolling airframe missiles start to roar.
I think it's going really well.
They spit out 4,500 rounds of 20mm lead every single minute.
From my perspective, it went a lot better than I would have thought.
The cheap drones get shredded instantly.
This company has been pretty
dropping
phenomenal
into the ocean like dead bugs after a storm.
To make sure we get whether it's the wind over the
215
deck
weapons fired,
or just
and
in our schedule,
215
so we can make
weapons
sure we
turned
get
to ash
everything.
before
So
they
it's been
even
pretty
saw
awesome
the
working with
masts
the
of the
crew here on
American
GWs.
ships. Not a single scratch on the carrier hull. Not a single American sailor spilled a drop of blood. They played their whole hand against the brick wall, and now they are standing totally exposed in front of an awakened giant. 20 minutes later, the unwritten rule of American warfare kicks in. You do not get a second chance after you take a swing at Uncle Sam. While the enemy radars are still searching the sky for their missing rockets, United States Central Command approves the ultimate counterstrike. America does not sit around waiting for damage reports, and they certainly do not wait for diplomatic excuses. The second the threat was mapped, Operation Hormuz Hellfire went hot. This is not a proportional slap on the wrist. It is the complete surgical removal of their ability to ever fight back. The flight deck of the carrier turns into a blur of violent motion. 48 F-35C Lightning IIs and FA-18 Super Hornets blast off into the night sky, their weapon bays stuffed to the brim with the smartest munitions on the planet. We are talking Stonebreaker bombs, anti-radiation missiles, and stealthy cruise missiles. That is 192 pieces of absolute destruction just from the fighters alone. But that is only the opening act. The real terror comes from 3 invisible ghosts. 3 B-21 Raider stealth bombers, the absolute peak of modern aviation, have been circling high overhead long before any radar could see them. They dropped 72 precision stealth missiles, with each bomber acting as a flying death sentence capable of wiping out 24 targets at once from hundreds of miles away. Down below the surface of the Persian Gulf, 6 Virginia-class nuclear submarines snapped their launch tubes open. 250 Tomahawk Block 5 cruise missiles burst out of the water, leaving lethal trails of smoke as they hunt down command bunkers and weapon caches. They prayed for a lucky shot with 215 rockets. America answers with a firestorm of 1,850 precision strikes. America does not just hit back for some message. They hit back to ensure you never even think about raising your own. As the night drags on and the smoke over the coast refuses to settle, the real surgical nightmare begins. America is making sure this threat stays buried. Those S-300 defense systems they love to show off are now just burning piles of scrap metal thanks to the electronic warfare tools finding their circuits. 12 stealth fighters slip right into the center of the country without a sound. Their targets are the massive missile research and production hubs in Isfahan and Fallujah. 96 smart bombs fall perfectly on target. Every single assembly line and every expensive machine that took decades and billions of dollars to build gets completely vaporized. America is not just breaking their toys, they are bombing their industrial future back to the Stone Age. They will not be building anything for the next 50 years. And for the grand finale, the massive B-52 Stratofortresses roll in. They drop 288 heavy guided bombs onto 12 logistics airfields and 8 oil refineries that fuel the military machine. The explosions are so massive that earthquake sensors actually register a magnitude 4 tremor. This is no longer a battle. It is a brutal military deprogramming. Look at the final score to truly understand the gap. 215 incoming shots exchanged for 1,850 Americans. 3,400 enemy soldiers lost, while America suffered absolutely zero casualties. 18 major military bases and 52 support sites wiped clean off the map. An entire generation of military progress turned to ash in less than an hour. That is the brutal price of grabbing the dragon by the tail. Total, humiliating, and irreversible collapse. At 12 minutes before 4 in the morning, it is all over. 33 minutes. It took less time than watching a television sitcom to completely erase half a century of strategic military buildup. Operation Hormuz Hellfire is finished, but the shockwaves will rattle the region for generations to come. Their big gamble turned into the most expensive and embarrassing joke in military history. 215 targets shredded in midair without leaving a single dent in the American armor, all in exchange for the collapse of their military civilization. This was not a war, it was a message written in fire and steel. America just proved to the entire globe that the difference between a regional player and a true superpower is not measured in miles, but in absolute technological dominance, and the sheer will to finish the job. They begged for a Pearl Harbor, but all they got was an eviction notice from the modern world. The arrogance of their leaders walked their people right into a meat grinder they could never escape. As the smoke finally starts to drift away and the sun peeks over the water, one cold truth hangs in the morning air. When you decide to pick a fight with a superpower, you are not just betting your weapons, you are betting your tomorrow, and the house always wins.